Hello, friends. We are just waiting. Maybe some visitors here.
Erisi raided my stream with 16 viewers.
Still haven't fixed that alert. Okay, I will eventually. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Jesse. Welcome, friends, to another Shiny Developer Series live stream. I am going to kind of keep it low key tonight and do some learning. So may not be a whole lot of coding, although I am going to try and follow along with some examples, and I do have some maybe a couple rants / hot takes to throw in there on, as usual, some things I hear at the in the conversations at work that I love to rant a little bit about. But welcome. Let's bring in the chat. Welcome, RDR fan, and of course Jesse, Tan. Welcome back, Isomore, Mowgli, and yep, I'm sure we'll see if others trickle in. But like I said, I'm gonna be low key tonight, and I want to start. Well, Jesse, I have you to thank for this. Been seeing all the awesome learning you've been doing, and I've reached a point where I will never ever be a total expert at Shiny, but there are certain aspects of it, especially what I'll call the interoperability aspect of it, and also what's really going inside that engine. I have mentioned this maybe in other streams in the past, but even with using this fancy Shiny package since its very beginning, practically everything I have built has used out of the box functions from Shiny or the related extension packages from the community. Only very occasionally have I had to dive into more tricks under the Shiny hood. Well, I'm kind of reaching a point where it's not even good or bad per se, but it's just kind of my evolution, I guess, where to integrate with some other tooling that I'm going to be, in essence, asked to put into my apps in the future, I've got to get a better handle on how the magic of the UIs are generated and by proxy the interactions of JavaScript. I'm having to deal a lot of widgets that are going into my apps that give you some really cool functionality, but whenever you hit that little wall of like, if they just did that one extra thing, there's one extension in particular that I've had that conversation with myself about, although they just had a major update, which I might touch on as we go forward here. I want to know enough so that I can at least see what maybe needs to be changed or what needs to be enhanced, even if it's just to establish a nice dialogue with the package authors. You know, I don't want to be like one of those people that just ask some random out of the blue thing without at least doing my diligence of trying to see maybe which parts need to be addressed. So in fact, I felt that way even about Linux over the years. Whenever I talk with our Linux team, I realized I had the music muted. Silly me. I tried to talk in the frameworks that they're working at with like automation of software installations, how they leverage their own version of containers, and don't get me started on the AWS stuff. That's for total other stream. But I want to start getting to know Shiny from the inside. And certainly I've had the privilege of being at the first ever Shiny DevCon, which was like my reactivity leveling up, because back then I was just like copying code from examples and not really knowing what reactivity is doing. I feel like I have a pretty decent handle on that, but now we want to get slightly lower level. And I said to this on Jesse's stream is that back then there was no way I could do this without feeling completely overwhelmed, having all the imposter syndrome going crazy on me. Now I feel like with the resources involved, and frankly not feeling like I'm alone in this, is going to be a good jump start. So that's what tonight's going to start. How long we go, I'm not sure. I'm definitely not going to go past 11:30. Yours truly is a little sleepy, and I do have an interview for the Shiny Dev Series tomorrow. It will not be live streamed, so sorry for that, but I think you'll like it. It's with a cool guest that's done some really cool Shiny stuff. I've seen their work in various webinars, and I feel like it's time to dive deep into their mindset. So finally getting back to another interview tomorrow. So what am I referring to? But first, a little housekeeping from last night. Those of you that stuck with me through the initial Shiny Lego kind of demo and then trying to extend it with that interactive help guide, saw that I basically fell flat on my face towards the end there, and I kind of tapped out there. Well, it was shortly right before I was going to hit the bed that I had this epiphany that, well, I can't possibly be the only one trying to use Cicerone, the R package that's doing the guided help, in an app with modules and with Golem involved. Well, let's talk about that a bit. So I turn your attention to the package called Hex Make, which is by Colin Fay. Let's look at this real quick. It is, of course, made with Golem because, well, it's from the authors of Golem, and wait for it. Once you go Golem, you never go back. There we go. So this cool app here lets you build your own hex sticker, straight and shiny. Awesome app. It was part of a Shiny contest a couple years ago. But have a look at the About page here. Get a guided tour. That seems what I wanted to do. And there you go. We can step through all these elements, describing all this, and now how did I figure out that Hex Make used this? Well, like I said last night, I decided to ask. Where is it? What issue had it? You know where it is. It's not here. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little mixed up with my GitHub repos here. And by the way, Monica, hello. Are you back at your home from the conference? I know you were quite busy over there at the open source Linux conference over in Washington. Let me search for the Golem repo. Oh, you're in your room. Okay, well, happy to give you some entertainment in your lodging there. Okay, so now let's search for this. It is in here. Cicerone. I think this was it. So somehow when I did this exact search last night, I stumbled upon this, that they were using the two packages that I want to use in Shiny Lego, the ones we looked at last night. And so I read through all this and how they did it, and they said they didn't quite get it right. And then this person on the issue, the author, says, never mind, looks like the dependencies are there now. Well, great. But then I saw this, and I said, well, wait a minute, I'm trying to use this. Did you have to change anything? And look who weighed in. That's when Colin said he uses the Cicerone package in Hex Make, and here's how he included it. So we're not going to do this tonight, but he first included it in basically the same place I did, or tried to, which was in the tags head, which is, again, going to be some of the stuff we learn about under the Shiny hood. Is like, what is going on in functions like this? What does tags head really mean here? Well, let's look at the rest of the code, because there is a module called Module Guided Tour. This is where it gets interesting. It is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Have simply an action button to launch the help, so that no matter where you are in the app, it will launch this. Okay, here's the kicker. They do an observe event on the button press. Now, the invoke.js thing, I did look this up. That has nothing to do with Cicerone. That's about how they expand and contrast some of the menu items. That's for another stream. But this is where they initialize the R6 object for Cicerone in here. And then I've seen this tactic before. I've actually done this tactic before with RIntro.js is you have to bring in the overall namespace of the module you're in, but then you have to use the names of the module where that input is in, which is all these different modules. You can tell these are the module names, like package name UI1, image UI1, hexa UI1, and then name it with the name of the input. So is it ideal? Absolutely not, because now you got to remember what you call these modules inside another module, which is not the best in the world. But if you only have to do it once or maybe a couple hours work, it's doable.
Thank you for the follow _hustle.
Oh, thank you for the follow for Hoso312. Welcome to the stream. We're going to do some learning tonight with Shiny. So they basically made this data frame of the input IDs and their titles and what text they want to show in those alerts. And then, oh, wait a minute, was that what I think it was? Uh-oh, maybe that was a good thing we have a Bot helping me out. And then they basically feed that data frame into a PMAP call where they put all the steps in what's called the guide of Cicerone, and then they start it. So the good news is it looks like it is indeed possible, but this is one of those cases where I would not have known how to do that at first glance if not for what Colin has just showed me. How can I start to know why this solution works? This is again a case of an HTML or a Shiny kind of widget inside a complicated structure. So we're gonna do some learning about this. So that again, we'll plug that into Shiny Lego another time. But what learning am I thinking about? It is this. This is a very promising book that's still in draft form. It is called Outstanding User Interfaces with Shiny by David Granjon, one of the more prolific Shiny developers in the Shiny community, the author of BS4 Dash, Shiny Dashboard Plus, Shiny Mobile, which was a focus in the UI UX webinar a couple days ago, and he is currently writing this book. So let me address some in the chat first. Isomore is asking, is the NS for the module? Now, let me go back there for a second. You are right, it is. So in modules, when you declare an input, you need to use the NS function to use the unique namespace of the module so that this avoids namespace collisions of having inputs that could potentially be named the same thing. You're allowed to basically call, say, an action button, a text input, a select input with the same name inside these modules, same with each other, but just with the NS prefix to give it a unique ID in front of it. There's a lot more to it than that, but the idea is that the namespace helps keep everything self-contained in that module's namespace. There's better ways to explain it, but that's what I'm going to use tonight. So, back to this. When I learned that he was working on this, it was a while ago, and I've actually had the privilege of learning some materials from David in previous workshops. One that was virtual that I attended last year as part of our 2020 R Pharma Conference initiative. And I kept up for like the first quarter of it, and I do remember there was one part that I got stuck in, and I just could not catch up. It was actually reminiscent of the workshop in a different level that Garrigate and Bowie had led with Colin and Maya Gans at the 2019 or 2020 RStudio Conf of the JavaScript for Shiny Users workshop. So I've had the privilege of learning some of this kind of in short durations. But like I said, in each of those cases, I would get pretty far, at least halfway or so, and then I'd make one mistake and then I just could not recover from it. So this is going to give me an opportunity to kind of go at my own pace, really experiment with things, and not feel like I'm missing out on the rest of the material. This is going to be self-paced, and you all in the chat are gonna learn along with me on this, and certainly keep me honest if I'm making mistakes or if I state things incorrectly as I understand it. So how about we dive into it, huh? So the first couple chapters are, this is more at the high level of how Shiny interacts with R and kind of what it's doing with HTML. And I've even mentioned this in some of Jesse's streams before, that Shiny's UI functions are simply getting you HTML code with various bits filled in. But what David teases us with is, look at this thing right here. Can you believe that this looks, it takes me back to the days of Winamp. If you remember the Winamp player, it really whips the llamas, you know what. Hopefully somebody's old enough to remember that. This is a Shiny app, folks. This is a Shiny app. Can you believe it? He has an example. Intro DJ system. That is just amazing. And then David tells us, okay, what is under the hood here? Yes, the CSS is going to be massive here. Well, man, not massive is a strong word, but certainly you don't have an outside in-the-box Shiny function to make it look like Winamp. It definitely has some JavaScript in it. It's got some PNGs, but not too much R code. But it does use a widget called Wave Surfer, which I've actually seen a bit in the past, to display the waveform of the music playing. I think I used that in my first ever Shiny mobile app, to be honest, because it was doing like a, you might say, a mini podcast player that didn't look nearly as slick as this, but you know, I'm not a designer. But this book is going to help us know, or at least see, how this thing was built, and showing that all this is indeed possible. So I'm excited to see if we can do our own creative, glitzy, shiny UI that would make nobody would know it's a Shiny app looking at this. So we're gonna have fun with this. So that's kind of, whether we do something like this or not, I'm not sure, but that's the principle of everything, is that with these going under the hood, we can build upon these skills that customize Shiny to many different ways. So I've actually know a somewhat decent amount of basics of HTML, so I'm probably not going to read this verbatim here, but the key point is tags. It's dominated by tags, whether it's like a header tag or a body tag or the div or span that are generic tags, but they kind of help you structure the page in an organized way. Isomore asked if I'm comfortable with JS. In a word, no, I'm not yet. That's one thing I want to use in this learning, is that David has very comprehensive material on using JavaScript with Shiny. And there's a whole separate book by John Kuhn called JavaScript for R that will even dive into that further, just from the general concepts. So that's probably going to be some overlap that I'll toggle back and forth with when we get to that point. But I feel like there's some foundational things that I have to answer for myself before I can even get to that point. So in essence, when we have these HTML pages, they have their kind of structured form with these tags. And Shiny is helping us write this structured form without us necessarily being an expert in these tags and in these layouts, because we've got things like fluid page, we got the P tag, we got all these things. But then we're going to look at also, how can we visualize this in real time when we make a Shiny app? That's where the developer tools come in. And every browser kind of does it differently. Well, not so much differently, but there are some nuances between how Firefox does DevTools and the Chrome or Chromium engine browsers. But it's all pretty similar under the hood. So if we even inspect this page, this is typically what happens. So it'll probably look microscopic on here, and I know the chat's gonna be blocking some of that, so let me move this out a little bit. Okay. So I think I've got it. Yeah, let me zoom in on this a little bit. The inspector is kind of telling you where certain things are on the page. So like, this is telling us there's a P tag with this HTML inspector stuff. Somehow I lost the, okay, now you're seeing where, when things get highlighted, you see the browser's highlighting in blue here, so you can kind of hover over all this. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff here. Probably need to scroll a little bit here. But the idea is that we can isolate these different pieces of the app. And there is a Chrome plugin called Inspector Gadget that also lets you kind of see how to traverse to these different elements via CSS or XPath, which is another technique that I have used sparingly, but I know is important when you want to take your like Shiny customization to another level. So we're probably going to use the inspector a bit, as David recommends here, to kind of get a feel for all this structure. And then lots of these tags have attributes. That's where you see things, maybe an ID or a class, but the ID ones should sound kind of familiar if you've been doing Shiny, because every time you do an input, you also have to do an ID with it. That's not just to match something from the client to the server. That ID is being used in the HTML of that selector or that widget or whatever have you. So IDs are quite important, and we can even put IDs in things like div to tell where to put things in a Shiny app if we have like a bucket of areas. So the div is something I use routinely. And we talk about kind of the skeleton of interfaces. Yeah, so talking about the web inspector again. Now what's interesting is I may want to switch browsers for this, because I think the Chrome inspector is going to be slightly easier to use than the Firefox one, although Garrett and Bowie uses the Firefox one quite a bit. Let me get a new Chrome-like browser here, and we'll just copy in the page from here into here. Okay, so yeah, we were right here about the document object model. So let's yeah, we can inspect. We may want to inspect a very basic thing. Maybe we do the hello world type thing. So, okay, let's do that. So, guess who has a custom development container spun up for just the occasion with our trusty Visual Studio Code here. So let's get some Shiny stuff installed. Get our terminal launched here, and we're gonna initialize rn because I always use it for everything. Okay, so now I gotta do a little song and dance to get my helper r profile file copied over. There will be a way to automate this in the future. I'm just too lazy right now. That will go into override all of this. Okay, I think that all works. So let's relaunch R with this in mind. Okay, here comes the installation of binary Linux packages, not the compile from source, because Ain't nobody got time for that tonight. That was fast. So, I'm not sure if she's still on, but Jesse, if you are watching, I can do this exact same thing with RStudio Server as well, and it can be just as blazing fast. So when you were waiting for RStudio Cloud to install all those packages, wondering when it was going to complete, if we can get you on this, it is going to be fast. Super fast. I promise you it'll be fast. Okay. So let's start installing our favorite packages here. I'm just going to get Shiny in here. Look how fast that was. Because I've done Shiny before, I have a cache that's spread across my system, so it just brought in that cache. So if I had done that from source with a fresh R installation, even Shiny would take probably 5 minutes to install. So, you know, sometimes it's good to be lazy when you can find ways of automating the lazy part out. Okay, so let's make a quick chat, shall we? I'm just gonna copy the code from the book there. Let's get ourselves a new R script. Select R here. And that because I'm so creative. All right. And let's run that. Oh, it'd help if I load Shiny first, right? And automate that part. All right. Okay, let's open this up in an external browser. Okay. I need to move that into the other one. Should work just the same. Yep. Okay. So let's zoom in on this a little bit and let's try out the inspector. And we're going to look at what this hello world element has. Okay, so now this is the basis of HTML, right? This is just the very basic skeleton. This is about the simplest Shiny app you can get, but you can see everything is dominated by tags, some attributes, and then we can hover over this. And if there was any styling, in fact, there might be some styling in here somewhere. We can even change it on the fly, like the font size. We can change this right here. I actually did this the other day when I was testing some out. You can do like 24px. And look, dynamically. Oh, you don't see the inspect? Oh, because I'm duh. Sorry for that. There we go. Okay. Let me see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Yep. So we can change the font size just by double clicking these different style elements. So I can do like 40 here. Whoops, I didn't do the PX, so it's not valid. So it's going to get mad at me when I don't do the valid syntax. So there we go. This is a great way to be very practical with playing with the impact of these different attributes or different styles in your app as kind of like your scratch pad before you have to fold this into maybe a style sheet or other code in your app. And I remember, I'm going to interject a lot of stories here, so bear with me, but the first time I saw a very prolific member of the R community show their mastery of the inspector or the dev tools of Chrome or a browser was none other than Iwei Sia, the author of Knitter and of course R Markdown fame. He pulled up the inspector on the spot when he was showing off the early versions of the DT package and showing kind of all the styling and JavaScript stuff that was under the hood of DT. And he just pulled this inspector out. He's whipping around, clicking things and changing stuff on the fly. A wizard. Iwei's already a wizard of so many things. But when he started pulling that off, I'm like, that's like just there's a cool factor along with it, but just like I really got to learn how to do that someday. So that was back at Shiny DevCon. So on top of Joe Chang's like reactivity, just drilling it into us. We had great talks from others about these different web tech, when I'll be honest, I just was not ready for it yet. I was blown away with it, but I wasn't ready for it yet. Many years later, I feel like I am now. So, yeah, that's cool. Tan's asking earlier about, was the copying of that for my own machine? Yes, it is. So, with our end, you can actually define a cache directory anywhere on your system, and that can be an option that's put into like your our profile settings or our environment settings. And I inject an environment variable in my container to say, okay, use this cache directory. I actually have the same directory path on both my laptop and on this streaming PC. And that way, every time a package is installed, it'll put that in the cache. And then if I request that same package in another container, it just grabs it from the cache. That's why Shiny took maybe 3 seconds to install instead of like 3 or 4 minutes. So love it, love it. Okay, so that was cool to kind of see what the inspector can do with a Shiny app running. So we kind of walked through some of this. Oh, okay. So we can add some children to the P tag. Okay, let's try that out. Right click, edit as HTML. Oh, so this is where we can actually edit it in real time. How do we get out of this? Escape? Oh, it didn't take it. That's interesting. Maybe I need to... I've messed up already, folks. Alright. Edit as HTML. Okay, let's try that again. What did he say to... We couldn't... Okay. We can... Let's add some children to it, he says. Or we can add some classes to it. Okay, let me read this a little bit. So... Oh, okay, so we... Okay, we did this already a little bit, although we did it with the style. Let's complete it. Let's just make sure we're... Yeah, this is how we would edit it. Yeah, okay, now it works. Okay, so now that's how we edit it. So, okay, what else can we do here? You may enter any valid HTML code inside. Don't forget about some rules. Inline tags. Okay, so what do we want to add here? Let's look at what are some tags we could put in here. I don't know, let's have fun with this. So let's replicate this, let's edit as HTML. And I think we can do a div here, I don't know. And we can do that, we can close the div here. We have to have the slash to close. I think that's how we close most HTML tags. Then we can have be like this. I know I should indent it, but I'm just being lazy here. And that should not do anything. It just put a div around it, so I didn't really update the contents very much. Okay, let's go back to yeah, I mean, we basically did a div there. That's kind of like a child tag there. Oh, so we can do more options when we click on the P tag. Okay, what do we get here? Any cool stuff here? Add attribute? Okay, we could add an attribute. Let's see, what can we... Okay, so we can... Whoops, I missed it. We can do like... Okay, so now we got an attribute there, so we can do that in the inspector. And delete, copy, extract. Oh, interesting. Let's try that. Let's extract CSS stuff out of it. Not seeing extract here. Or is that a different option? Oh, we can copy element, copy selector, copy XPath. What's a selector? What happens when I copy that? Oh, it doesn't really do anything here, does it? Where's the extract option? Oh, okay. Code to select the element. Okay, let's try that again. And then, well, actually we did it, but we can put it in the JavaScript console, whatever that is. Let me make this bigger. Maybe I need to zoom out. Oh, there it is. It's up here. So did I? Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, so body div p.awesomestream. That was the class we assigned to it. Okay, okay. So that apparently is a time saver. Interesting. Okay. Maybe we can try running this. Although I'm sure I broke it, but let's see. Oh, it got it. Look at this. So it figured out that based on this path of selecting, it took my p tag of the class AwesomeStream. Oh, that's cool. Then we can hide stuff and force a specific state. I think that. So. Some of these things are starting to click with me. If you notice the word hide the element, we go back here, hide element. Now it didn't really hide anything, because it's a div here. Okay. I bet if I hadn't done that hiding stuff, then, or this div stuff, it'd probably work. In fact, let's rerun the app again and we'll try that again. I'll refresh it off screen here a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's put that back. No, that's not what I wanted in the clipboard. Oh, yeah. Right. Sorry. Shenanigans of browsers here. Alright. Copy that. There we go. Alright. Spec. Whoops. Seems like I didn't highlight that correctly. Okay. Hide element. Yes, there it goes. Okay, so I think this class stuff is saying that we hit it in the web inspector, but the thing to note is that there are a lot of cool tricks in Shiny that let you show and hide things. I mentioned this actually, who did I mention this to? Well, it may have came up last night or one of Jesse's streams. That Conditional Panel is a great way to show and hide things from the client side. Or Shiny.js, exactly, Tam. That's what I used to use in the past. But I'm guessing these are great. These are our functions to do things like this. So somehow on the HTML side or the JavaScript side, it's running code to dynamically show or hide these various bits. Then we eliminate that, and now we got our hello world back. So it's interesting to see that really the way they hit it was they assigned a special class to it. That is interesting. Okay. Getting a question from Isomore. How do I get reader mode? I'm not sure what reader mode means here. If you could elaborate further, that'd be great. Okay. All right, let's see what else we have here. We're looking for a specific tag in a complex page. Oh, searching. Okay. Let's try that out. All right, let's try that out. What happens here? Okay. Ah, okay, so we can find anything that's labeled class, and it's much like a string search. We can find div. Yep. Okay. All right. Whoa, what did I just do there? Oh, I expanded the head of stuff. Well, that's interesting here. Okay, I'm sure this will come up later in the book, but look at all the header stuff that Shiny puts in the head tag of HTML. This is kind of like all the dependency things that Shiny is running under the hood. A lot of jQuery stuff, CSS stuff, some JavaScript-y stuff even right here. Yeah, the CSS, all from Bootstrap, grabbing it from the minified CSS and the minified JavaScript that kind of power a lot of the functions under the hood. So that's cool. I know that must be what's happening when we have functions in like Golem or even other Shiny apps where we have the head tag of a tag list, and you're injecting all those calls to like use Shiny.js or use Cicerone or use Tippy or whatever the widget you name it. It must be injecting some things like those dependencies that we see here in the head of the HTML page. So the key is just putting that in the right place so that the rest of your app can know where all that is. Okay, so now we talk about an intro to CSS and JavaScript. Yeah, if you look what the web looked like in the early 90s, folks, it was as plain as you could get, and even I have to do some internal mini little websites at work that are running on just a Apache Linux server, and I don't do any styling with it. I just have a collection of links of like internal presentations or whatever, and I would just use the most basic bare bones HTML style I could get away with. This was before we had things like RStudio Connect, where I can deploy like a Sheringan slide deck or deploy an R Markdown report and share a link through that. This was in the way back days, like 7-8 years ago. I was just doing some online reports, and I just had to throw it on one of our Linux servers and say, here you go. You don't have to email it to you. You can just look at looking good. Oh, GeoCities, you're taking me back, Monica. No, or MySpace, or all the fun stuff. I think I even made a GeoCities page, but of course no one looked at it because I was boring. But I remember exploring some of that stuff. And look at the difference between this basic thing and what David does with the R interface landing page. I mean, geez, we've come a long way. But it is all about CSS. So the key here is that if you want something like red text in your app, you can do a style for it. And this is the notation of CSS, is you have like the class name or the element name, and then you do the squiggly brackets, which of course are familiar to us in the R side of things. That's how we encapsulate reactive code or encapsulate function code. And then you give like that attribute category and the attribute value. That's pretty basic, I think. So we'll just do something like that. In fact, we're going to get a little practice here. Let's copy this code in to our app and do a little styling action. Stop this. Copy this in. So, much like we saw in the book there was a style tag, and we just use the tags function or the tags object and go inside it to assign a style. And this will be red text for hello world. Well, I don't like red today. We're going to do blue because I'm a blue kind of guy. Let's run that. And of course, there it is. It's blue text. Big surprise. Actually, don't I have a plugin that can inspect things in here? Do I have anything in here? I'm curious now because I know I put in a plugin here for VS Code. But I have to kind of... Oh, do I have to type this in hard code? There's got to be a way to copy that in dynamically, but... Hold up. One. And random port 6513. Okay. Yep, there it is. Let's see what the inspector looks like in VS Code. I'm just curious. Which one is it? Oh, there it is. Oh, kind of. Definitely masked my area here. Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got... Whoa, that's really kind of gnarly. Can we move this? Whoa, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Responsive, I have no idea. Oh, you can make it different dimensions, like a... Oh, interesting. Okay, that would be handy for mobile development. You can just change the resolution to match like what you're targeting. That's pretty slick. I'll have to play with that a little more. It's not quite as friendly as the Chrome inspector, but it's always good to have choices. Okay, let's go back to the book here. And then it's JavaScript time. It's all leading up to this. Getting a little preview here is they have a change color function that targets an element having hello ID and then changing it to a different color. Where do they put the function? They put it in the script tag. So the script tag, apparently in HTML, is the place where you put arbitrary JavaScript code or a link to another script to execute little fun stuff like this. And then if we want to do this in the app, we can, again, very similar type structure. We can do this within the app itself. All right, let's give that a shot. Okay, let's try running this. And I'll show you what I just saw on this other screen here. So we got a little alert over here saying, click on the hello world text. And look, when we clicked it, it changed it to green. How slick is that? I know it's microscopic here, but that is definitely green now. That was all handled through the power of JavaScript. So, this is the stuff that I first really started learning about, or at least was told about, in Garrick Aiden Bowie's JavaScript for Shiny Users course. And we started looking at what is a JavaScript code to actually select the element you want to get to in the Shiny app, and then assigning it different attributes via this syntax. So like once you get it, you put a period on it, and then you say, okay, what do you want to change? It's a style. Then what do you want to change within the style? It's a color. and then we change it to a color, and then we run it. Basically on the click, we're running that function and just applying the word green, and then putting the text in. Interesting. Okay. So what chapter 1 was really about is just walking us through that a Shiny app, we're making websites. We're making interactive websites. They definitely have lots of interaction with CSS and JavaScript, and a lot of times you just don't even see it. Especially if you stick with the default templates, which give you that kind of nice plain canvas of bootstrap styling, but that's all CSS behind the scenes. Otherwise, it would look like that ugly page that we saw a few minutes ago. So all that styling is very important, but then the interactivity at the heart of it is all JavaScript. So not much to do in terms of exercises. We just did a couple demos there, but this is the section that caught my eye literally right before I turned the OBS launch on, is manipulating these HTML attributes within R itself, not necessarily through the Shiny package, but through the package that Shiny depends on quite a bit, and that's htmltools. So basically what htmltools does is that this is the package that's giving you all those convenience functions for those tag elements, like a h1, div, p, or span, or a lot of the convenient ones. And then when you go into the tags object and then you do the $, and then you can start typing in the HTML tags that exist in the standards, and then you can manipulate them over there. So looking at this cool example here, it looks like it's straight out of the game that maybe Jesse or others were playing recently. We have a little mini, looks like a mini app here that has all this slick styling to make it look like retro gaming. So on top of CSS, htmltools is playing a role here as well. Oh, called Shiny RPG. Well, what a cool game that is. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna install this package. I just want to try this out. This looks fun. Let's go back to VS Code, and I'm gonna throw this on my project because I love playing with this in real time. So that's gonna be rm install interface Shiny RPG. Oh, select. What was that about? Did I not spell it right? I better copy paste it. That's what I get for trying to type it hard coded. Alright, let's try that again. I have no idea why that highlighted, but whoops, double quotes. No. What? It got rid of my quotes. Ah, alright. No, not there. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's try running this. Very curious what this looks like. Huh. Okay, so it even got little notifications at the bottom when it launched up. Can we change this? Oh, that's just the... Oh, okay. We can change this. Oh, it updates this in real time. Check, and then we get notifications. Okay, I'm sure this is going to be part of the learning, but we got a select input here. Yep. This is pretty slick. I like it. Okay. So I guess we're going to learn how to build this too down the road. That looks pretty fun. Okay, so this is kind of what I was getting at before, is that htmltools has these convenient functions like div and the like that I believe will just simply spit out the HTML code afterwards. So we can try that out in VS Code here. Let's load htmltools. From Twitch. Yep, exactly. So all it did is just translate the R code into HTML. That's a fundamental piece of all of this. And what's interesting is that if we name the elements, we go back to, oops, wrong button. Oh no. All right. We go back to here. If we, hold on. Yeah, so all named elements become attributes and unnamed elements become children. Okay, so that was kind of some stuff that was in chapter 1 that I glossed over, is that each tag can have a what's called a child underneath, and you can nest it much like you do a nested list in R, and nest all this together, but have attributes that define certain other features. Okay, I think that's more of a printing thing. Notations. Okay, so this is what I was saying, is if you do the tags object itself and then you $sign it, you can see a whole bunch of stuff. So let's try that out in action here. Oh, actually, tags, not tag. Okay. Oh yeah, so now you start to see all these different possibilities. Hey, there's audio too. I know a thing about audio. All this stuff. Look at all this. So the HTML standard has a whole boatload of these. Legend? I don't know what legend does. Wow. Look at all this. It's just unbelievable how complex this world is. WBR? No idea. But of course there's video too. I know a thing about video. What happens when we do that? Yeah, this video tag. Okay, big deal. And then, like I said before, there are some ones that get used a lot more than others, like the header tags, break tags, strong tags, things like that. But some of those are not exported by default, so for that you have to get into the tags object, and then yeah, so you can definitely put a tag inside another tag as well. You could nest this however you like. And apparently there's a convenience function called with tags that lets you not have to do tags $sign a bunch of times, so that's pretty cool. Tag list. Okay, now we're starting to get to the stuff where I start making connections here. Oh, Monica, yeah, thanks for joining. You got a Sousa lightsaber. Oh man, I'm so jealous. The Sousa people are fun people, I'm sure. Have a safe trip back. I'm not sure if Martin's going to do any racing this weekend, but if you're on, well, I'm sure we'll see you then, hopefully. All right. Back to HTML fun here. Yes, so okay, so back to tag list. Whoops, didn't want to click on that. Tag list, every time I have more than one like input in like an area of a Shiny app, that's in a, well, it's not always the case, but a lot of times when there's like an element that maybe comes from another package that expects you to put like a list of Shiny content in, you have to do the tag list. Although I guess you don't necessarily have to. You could get away with a list, but I've always been taught from the early beginning of Shiny that if you have multiple elements together that need to be treated as one block, tag list is the way to go. There are actually some other thoughts I have about that, but I better not say them because I was a bit of a situation last time that came up. But it's good to know that David is also on board with the tag list bit here. Okay. Now, there's a concept of adding new tags. Okay, so what happens is to make a tag, you put it in the tag function, the name of it, and I believe here the list is supposed to be like the stuff that it's made of. Okay, so when we look at the structure, we got the name is test. Okay, that's what this kind of ID thing is here. And the attributes. Okay, so the attributes are going into a list here. No, I didn't want to click that. And then you can put the names of the attributes inside here. But it had a child tag because this was not named, so that became a child tag. So it's a list again. Now the name of P, attributes was nothing, and then that itself had a child of the text itself, custom tag. So this is quite nested in nature. Interesting. Okay. And then this is another thing I see quite a bit in Shiny apps in their custom UIs, is just using the HTML function verbatim, which gives you basically a way to write the raw code if you know what it is. But their classes are a little different. Interesting. But it may be you have to use this sparingly. Oh, if you want to convert raw HTML to R code, there is a Shiny app. Oh, interesting. Non-standard attributes are not correctly processed, but there are solutions. This will save you precious time. Oh, let's take a look at what this is about. Let's look at the app if it still works. Okay, let's try this out. Alan's a cool guy. I met him. I met him at the 2019 RStudio Conf for 2020. He's a good dude. Okay, so we have HTML here, and we could change this if we want. And then what happens if we convert? Oh, wow, that's cool. That's cool. It converted it to the R code, so it's going the other direction. This is saying, okay, you have raw HTML. What would it look like if you needed R code to do it? And so we check the prefix button. Oh, the prefix is this. Okay, so if you want to be verbose, you could do it. Okay, well that's... I'm going to have to bookmark this. This is a slick little app here, so let me... Oh, it's archived. Okay, that's interesting. But still worth a bookmark nonetheless. All right. Now we have a whole bunch of bookmark about Shiny here. Okay, cool. Ah, so why would you want to do this? Like, because usually we go the other direction. Because now this can be used in dynamic script generation or scripts that make dynamic code, perhaps. Okay. That's interesting. I'll have to play with that a little bit some more. Hey, Daniel, welcome. Welcome. We're doing some learning on my own here. So it's really learning about the nuts and bolts of UI, actually. I'm not so much making new ones. I'm looking at this great book called Outstanding User Interfaces with Shiny. I'll put that in the chat if any of you want to follow along. By the way, I do have pretty decent authority to say this, but the title will probably be changed before it's printed. You could even discover why if you really wanted to. Okay, so So the shiny tags fundamental. Okay, so this is kind of like what I just verbalized. So I'm actually, I'm actually on pace with this. I feel like I'm learning now. So a shiny tag has the name, which is what we had, like the spanner did, the attributes, the children, which were not named in that list earlier, and a class. Okay, so here what we have is the class, the ID, and then the child element, which is h1. And the span is kind of like that too. Okay, so if we look at the list here, this will tell us for sure. We got the attributes, div class in first. Children are the name of h1. That's got the text of it as a child. And then we have another one called span. That has a class of child, an ID. And that within that's got a child of crime. Boy, I know how that feels. Okay. Okay. Now, what if we wanted to modify the class of that second one? They think that you can just change it to here. Why is that not working? By assigning my tags children to the second children, modifies the class of the copy and not the original object. Well, that makes sense, right? I mean, you put it here, so it's not going to change what you had originally. So instead, you've got to refer to it this more verbose way in order to do it. Okay. And now we get to that RPG thing here. There exists an HTML template already. Oh, neat. Okay. I'll have to check that out sometime. That reminds me, there is a cool HTML layout with retro 8-bit looking. Guess who wrote it? It's called what? Isn't it called Nessie? I need to go to his GitHub. Huh. Remember he I'm not good at remembering that. Because I actually talked with him about this. Let's look at the repos here. There it is. An NES CSS for Shiny. This was a lot of fun to play with. In fact, I wonder if my app is still working. I have an app that did this. Let's see if I can find it for you real quick. This is from a while back. No, it was it was actually a tutorial about one of the slide making packages, but I had fun with it. I looked at making an app. Let's see if it still works. I hope it does. I was going to talk about making PowerPoint slides tomorrow. I was just going to make it fun, so I had a little thing called Mega Man Slide Generator. This was using the Nessie package under the hood. You can select the Robot Master, fire attempts at killing them. Most difficult one, Heat Man. Okay. Then we can download the slide. And that, whoops, where'd my thing go? Lost my thing here. Oh, it's way over here. Okay. Gives you this. I did all this with the Officer package in R, just putting in text and stuff. That was fun. This was from a few years ago. But yeah, the Nessie package was great to style this little mini app. And when I showed this at the tutorial, back at the 2019 RStudio Conf workshop. Huh. Eway was in the very back of the room because he was kind of letting a few of us kind of like do different sections that day, and I was on last that day. And I remember he perked right up when he saw this, and he pulled me aside afterwards, like, Eric, that was really cool. And when Eway tells you something is cool, it's like that guy is so mild mannered that I was like, okay, I got our cred from Eway. That was so much fun. Okay. So I digress. All right. So that's what this RPG template reminded me of. Okay, so this is where they're gonna write their own custom select input with a function, RPG select. And you can see these arguments are quite similar. In fact, we just basically feed into it. So we start with what's already there. So we're going to take a select input and we're going to extend it a little bit. And then they have documentation where they have a specific class, RPG UI dropdown. Okay. Then we do a label on top of it. So after the label, for equal variable. Okay, so this is the label tag. It has an ID attribute, a for attribute, and then the child of it is the text of the label called variable. Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this. And then we make sure that the select has an ID as well with the class. And if we were going to do this in the function form, this seems like a logical choice, the input ID, the label, and the choices. But when we look at comparing the two here, we've got the class ID variable label, that's the same. For variable is the same, but there's a class called control label, and we have a class form shiny input container. But then we do a div here. Then it's a select ID variable class form control. Okay, so that's a little different. So it didn't get the class here. Okay, so let's see. So this is not matching because the outer div should not have any class. That's what it had here. Label should not have any class. Okay, so what that was here. Okay, so this is the outer div, the label, input tags in it. Yep, so I just discovered that. And yes, okay, so I was ahead of it. I saw the differences before I had to read it there. And so to fix the first problem, we target the outer tag. The second row cleans the label class. The third row removes the extra div. Okay, so oh, thank you, G. Winhill. Glad you found about the Shiny Dev series. Yes, we have a lot of great content on there, and we'll be doing recording another interview tomorrow, and that'll be released maybe next week or so, depending on editing. But it's been a hybrid of highlighting the brilliant people of the Shiny community, both like on the inside and those like me that are using Shiny in their daily work. And also just me learning about Shiny stuff on live stream. So glad you discovered it. Okay, so the idea is that we can go into the tag attributes ourselves and remove the cruft that we don't want using the principles that David mentioned in the earlier part of the chapter, and then assign the right class. I'm not sure what the size thing is here. Okay, so once we have that in place, then we get the actual code. So let's see what that looks like here. Okay, so we've got... So we first start with the base element or the base input from Shiny itself. and then we modify afterwards. So we don't try to do it all in one shot. We get the template, then we start cleaning it up. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case for everything, but that seems like a decent path to follow. You get it established, and then you remove the extra stuff away. Okay. So you saw that we were assigning class and ID tags using the familiar syntax of the tag name, $ attributes, and then $ that specific variable. But if you have to do this a lot, that could be really cumbersome, but htmltools has some helpers. Okay, so now we're starting to build upon why does htmltools have so much under the hood. It's to do a lot of these operations more efficiently. Now what's interesting is that in the tag append attributes, we can pass as many as we want, as well as the non-standard ones. Okay, so basically you just separate them as different elements of your vector. Okay. But if we did it the classic way, we have to do it in these multiple steps. Okay, so there is a nice way to do this all in one shot after all. And then we can also look at if a tag has an attribute with the tag has attribute function. We can get all of them if we want. And we can create children. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. If you do this, if there were any children elements before, this will actually remove all of them when you call it. Okay, so that could be a little destructive. You can do a tag append child, tag append children. Okay, so you have different versions depending on how much you want to pass in. Okay. Why is there no tag remove child? I'm just skimming through this a little bit. Oh, interesting. So it's going to okay. Well, I'm not quite clear on why tag remove is not there. Seems like it's maybe not quite able to handle it correctly. Tag append is not able to insert a specific position. Oh, okay, so there's new stuff there. Oh, so Golem does have a tag remove attributes function. That's interesting. Okay, we can do some conditional stuff here. Style is okay, so you can do like the if stuff in here inline for the style element. Okay, that's cool. Style won't be available if the color is not specified. Oh, interesting. Yep. Okay, so it's not going to try and do it. And of course, our friendly pipe operator can help quite a bit as well, it looks like. Which makes sense because it's kind of like a pipeline of like appending things, appending children, all this, you can just pipe it all out. And then, of course, we can take advantage of things like per to dynamically create different elements on the fly. So we can just, yeah, span it to div. And then we got it all within this specific div. Okay, so it looks like modern versions of htmltools help you with jQuery kind of stuff. Tag query. I definitely do not know jQuery much at all, so this is something I'm going to have to look at a little bit. Yeah, this... I don't know how to describe jQuery. It's definitely got some JavaScript type code in it. So it's kind of like doing JavaScript stuff without necessarily being in JavaScript, if I get that right. But this, they act like it's pretty efficient though, so I'll have to digest that some more. Now this approach here with the tag query, it's kind of logical. You want to find where that span is, you want to filter for something, and then add attributes if you satisfy the filter, and then update all tags accordingly. Okay, so here what it did is it found the third item, did the class for that, and left everything else alone. Okay, so Daniel's saying it thought of it as an easy way to select DOM elements. I do think jQuery is very helpful for selecting, it looks like. So I did use a package called Shiny JQUI in the past that would wrap some jQuery stuff with Shiny functions. In fact, fun fact there, speaking of the Shiny Dev series, it was one of my earlier interviews. Where was it? What? This will date things quite a bit. Yep, Shiny JQUI. We had interviewed Yang Tang, the author of it, way back in, holy cow, November 1st, 2019. Wow, that's a long time ago. But we dived deep into Shiny JQUI, kind of his process for developing it. And fun fact, actually Yang happened to be at the same company I have been in for a short bit. He was in the China affiliate, and of course I was here in the US. We never got to work together, but little did I know that I had a Shiny package author at my company at one point. That was pretty cool. Okay, so it looks like jQuery is something we're going to look at later on in the book. And it looks like it's good for performance as well. Okay, it looks like one can achieve multiple modifications at once with a single tag query call. So you don't have to like repeatedly call another function over and over again. You can wrap it all into a tag query thing here. Okay, so it looks like we are going to dive into jQuery stuff a bit. Tag query accepts a list of tags and returns a data structure. Oh, okay. Okay. It's an R6 class. Here we go again. Okay, so a lot of what Shiny does is R6 under the hood. So I really got to get a handle on R6 if I want to really figure out what all this means. So here's all the query methods. So it looks like there may be a lot more than this, but these are like the most logical ones. So we want to get children of a tag, finding the descendants, the ancestors, the related siblings, if you will, filtering with CSS, and maybe resetting things. Okay. Wow, that's a lot. But it seems like it saves you a lot of time. Oh, interesting. This is a cool little image here. It can't click on it, but it's basically saying, okay, in your root, you have the children, which is going to find your stuff here. Then the siblings are all here. But then filtering, you may want to get specific children within that one box here. Okay. Okay. So I'm probably gonna wrap up here pretty soon, but we're gonna close up with the tab set panel. Okay, tab set panel in Shiny is a way for you to have, like in your UI, maybe 2, 3, or however many different tabs that you can click on your main page, and they will each have their own section of UI and output, so you can kind of separate your app into different components. So it sounds like they're a challenge to handle when you build custom templates, but tag query makes it very easy. We're going to look at this again in way later in section 17. But if we use like BS4 dashes tab set panel, we'll get stuff like this. And if we only want to get the third one, which would be this right here. So we do tag query tabs, $sign fine. The div with respect to tab pane. Where is tab pane? I don't see tab pane. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. Okay, I was looking at the wrong spot. So it's this one here, tab pane. And then tag get attribute, data value. Okay, okay. Now that's a filter function not related. Well, it's kind of like what dplyr filter does. Only this time we're giving it a function to use to do the element selection. An anonymous, whoops, what did I just do? Go back. X is the tag that we're feeding into it, and I is the index. So it's going through all these different indexes right here, and then it's going to say, okay, get the data value of 3. What's the I for again? X is tag and I is the index. Okay, I'm not quite sure why, but okay. Now, I'm guessing if we did the htmltools version of it, it would be really difficult if he is challenging us here, so I'm not going to do that challenge. I'm just going to kind of digest tag query and just use it to our advantage. Then we can modify tags.
Thank you for the follow bucket_hosso312.
Oh boy, I think we're getting I may have to employ some methods here. Hold on, folks. I think our friendly bot is doing its job, but please alert me, anybody in the chat, if you hear otherwise. Okay. So we can play with attributes. There are different methods like adding, removing, checking if we have attributes. Same thing with classes. We can add, remove. Does it have? Okay. Okay. And then Bootstrap 4, you can add a fade class to make a nice fading effect. Okay. Interesting. Alright, so there are other methods to alter a tag, append, prepend, so you can do a whole bunch of stuff with jQuery, I'm guessing here. So if we had the tab example from before, we could include an icon before each tab title. There's a prepend method. Insert content before the children of each selected tag. Okay, so what it's doing here is that we're finding all the elements of A, which is kind of like the link tag, and then we're putting a flag around it. And that looks like here, we got the little flag icon and 1, 2, 3. And I guess this is another part of the efficiency thing, is that the tag query lets us chain these methods together. So in essence, it's kind of like the $sign here is kind of like a pipe of sorts. It's saying, okay, go here, find, add, remove, filter here, add another class, reset to the... What does reset selected do again? Let's look. Reset set of... Oh, okay. Reset selected gets you back to the top of the chain, so to speak. Okay. So here we're saying, okay, after we did this fun stuff, getting the data value of 3, reset so that we're starting searching back at the top. Now we're going to find the link tags and the flag in front. Now the next operation uses the same target, so we don't need the reset. But if you didn't want to use the same target, you would do that reset selected function. Okay. We're going to remove the class of active, select the third one, make that active instead. And then all tags, what does all tags do? All tags kind of like closing up shop, so to speak. Let me see if I can find that in the page. Okay, I'm just guessing that's kind of like boilerplate to get all the result out of it. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Okay. Kind of like in dplyr, when you want to get a variable out, you pull it down if you want to get a single element out, or a single variable. I'm guessing it's kind of like that. Okay. Okay. What if we want to modify all tabs content from tab I to this is tab I? So they would find tab pane, empty, and then reapply everything. Oh, so this actually duplicated things way too much. Okay, okay. Methods like append and prepend are only able to add the same elements to one or multiple targets. So it'll actually add 3 new children. In the case where the content's index specific, we have to do that each function. Oh, okay, okay. So for each of the tab panes, replace the text, and then we get the right thing here. Okay, okay. So now, okay, that code we saw before, where it was modifying that select input for the shiny RPG, where it was kind of doing it step by step. Now we're going to do it in one shot with tag query. Okay. So let's read this together. We're going to remove the attributes from the outer class. Now we're already in the outer part, so we don't reset it. Now we're going to find the control label and remove the class of that as well. But now we don't need the reset now because we're going to drill down. So we're going to go to find the siblings and then go to the children. I feel like I want to run this myself a little bit. Let me copy that into my VS Code, and I'll probably wrap up here. I'm just kind of curious how all this works. Okay. So let's put our browser here. I'll try running stuff. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so now we are right here. So let's see what select tag looks like. Yep, looks like that. And then select class looks like this. Yep. Okay, so let's start. So we should get stuff back that will look kind of like this in the end. But I kind of want to try commenting out things and then just see the impact of it. So we should be able to just comment this out and see what happens when we do this. Yep, so the div does not have a class anymore. So we did that. Now let's re-enable this. Try that. And now we've got, what do we do here? We remove the class from the child label. So let's see. Control label. Now that is not there anymore. It used to be right here. Now that's gone. Okay. And then we're going to go to the siblings. I don't think this will actually change anything from what we got above, but try. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It's just in kind of the under the hood of the function. It's going to so control label. Now I'm getting kind of confused again. Okay, so that's here. Okay. Because in the raw one, if I go back to the raw one, oops. What was it called? Select tag. Okay, let's look at the raw one again. Okay, so it was okay. Control label was this. We remove the attribute, so that's gone. The sibling would be the other div tag. Okay, so that would be this right here, I believe. And then we're going to go down there to its children. And then we're going to add a class to the child select. And select class was this RPG dropdown. Okay, so let's see if that does what I think it does. Oops. All right. Did it add it? Oh, did it? Yep, yep. Class form control RPG dropdown. Yep. Okay, so that is different. Where we just had form control before. Okay, so we've added it here. And then we're going to go back up top. Back to the div parent. And then now we're going to undo some of this nesting, I think. Is that what that's about to do? This each X children 2 X children 2 children replace the div parent. Oh, okay. So it's saying that this outer div here, which is useless to us right here, I think. Okay, I have to think about this a little bit. Let's just see the impact of it first. Yeah, okay, I was on the right track. There was a div right here, and they want to get rid of it. So what we did here is that, okay, for each part here, find the children, and just assign what was the children of the children as like the root of it. I think that's what it means. So that's why now we've got just a select here instead of what we had before, where we had the div here. I think that's what that's getting at. Okay, I think so. That's going to take me a little bit of... Why is it 2, though? That's what I need to figure out. Let me go back to the book here and see if we talk about it. We finally go back to the outer div with reset selected and apply each to replace the inner div by its children. What I don't understand is why is it 2 here? It may be a JS function. I'm not sure, somewhere. That's a good question. It's a jQuery thing, but I thought each of these was kind of like a JavaScript function. But I'm just a little confused why it's the children of 2 here. Like, what happens if we do children 1? Let's just see. I'm gonna comment this out, and then I'm gonna try changing things. I'm just curious what happens. I'd like to learn through that. Yeah, that's true. I could console log it. Yeah, let me just see what it does here first. Maybe we'll get an error. I don't know. So it definitely did not work. We still have the div around it, so it definitely did not get the right thing. If we go back to 2, then it will get it. Yep, got it out now. So let me look at the each function stuff again. Takes an anonymous function as input, which we did. X is the tag and I is the current index. Yeah, reset went to the top. Oh, okay, let me go back to the code here. So Isomore, you're saying reset went back to the top. I get that part. And then now, children x children 2 is the second div. Oh, because we're at the very top. Although I was a little confused because it looked like... Oh, we still had the outer div at top. Okay. So that was the first div, and then before that got reset. Okay, let's just run. I think I see what you're saying. I just want to talk it through to myself first. If we comment this out. So we are still in the situation where we go at the very top, we have to first select this div, which will get us the label ID, but then we want to get the second div, and this is the one. If we get that child, we get to that children of that child and wipe it out. So div, label, div, select. Okay, okay. I think I get it now. You really just have to kind of know where you start and how deep you go. That index is saying, okay, how deep do you go? And because if we just did one, we just were here. There was no issue here. The issue is here. Okay. Let me just run that again. Like, we wanted to keep this outer div anyway, but we just wanted to wipe out the div underneath. Okay. Oh. Underneath the label, I should say. Yeah, okay. I'm definitely going to have to play with that a bit more. But it's nice to know that the tag query stuff is, in essence, our dplyr-esque pipeline for HTML manipulation. Yeah, now I know exactly. Now I know why one didn't remove the one I wanted. Did that remove the first one actually? Let me double check. Just curious now. No, it didn't even remove the first one, so that was definitely just bogus selection there. Okay. 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 Oh, it must with the label. Oh, okay, you're right. I didn't notice it. Yeah. Yep, you're right. It did. Okay, now I see. I wasn't paying attention to that. Yep. So it totally removed the wrapping tag and just grab the child of it, which was my, okay, it's all clicking now. Now it's starting to click more. Okay. Now this is why I'm so glad I have people watching this at this hour, because I did not really catch that nuance until you walked me through the indexing stuff. Okay, I feel like that's a light bulb tonight. It's just that little bit of selection alone is amazing to me. Okay, I know there's this whole render hook stuff, but honestly, I think I'm gonna call it a time. I'm gonna time out there. I think that's a great place to end it. But we almost got through chapter 2. We did the practice, although we kind of stuffed through bit by bit to really nail that down. So let's recap where we left off on the book. We left off right about here. So I think next time, whenever I do the next learning stream, I'm probably gonna, not sure if I'll do this part on stream, but then we're gonna start diving into what Shiny does for dependency management. So there's okay, looks like we talk about bootstrapping, jQuery, and manipulation, and then more about dependencies. So I think this next part's going to be more about what's going into Shiny and how we can explore that together. Okay. Yeah, this was cool. That I feel like I've been putting this off for a long time, but I think now I'm really satisfied that it's removing some of the mental blocks in my head of like what all this stuff, what all this HTML manipulation really is about. And yes, tag query is from htmltools, just wrapping a lot of this stuff. But with the inspector, we could also look at the raw form of it and compare and contrast the R way of specifying it with the raw jQuery once we get to that point. So I feel like we're gonna make some progress here, I think, soon. So all right, well, thanks all of you for sticking around for this learning stream. I had a lot of fun diving into this initially, and David, if you watch the video of this later on, I hope this makes you a little happier that I'm finally diving into this head first, and I'll certainly be watching for updates on the book as we go. So, okay, well, as always, if you want to get a hold of me, probably the best place to see what I'm up to and my random thoughts about R and data science is on my Twitter account. That's @TheRcast. And stay tuned for another episode of the Shiny Dev series and the interview playlist coming up next week. In fact, I'll be meeting with my right-hand person on that, Curtis, from our studio, to talk about some planning for future episodes as well. So, all right, well, you all have a great night. I am going to head to bed, and I will see you around online somewhere. So take care, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.